Camilla screams after King Charles shows special feeling towards elegant women. Suddenly, Windsor Castle gleamed under the soft amber glow of late September sunlight, its stone walls alive with centuries of history and whispers of old secrets. Inside St. George's Hall, an unusual tension simmered beneath the glittering chandeliers. Guests in tailored suits and elegant gowns murmured quietly, sipping champagne, their eyes flicking occasionally toward the grand staircase where the royal couple was expected to appear. Among them moved Lisa Kay, a woman whose calm confidence masked a heart pounding with anticipation. She wasn't accustomed to palaces or pageantry. Her life revolved around the meticulous creation of shoes, not royal accolades. Yet here she was, honored for her brand, Soul Bliss, a line celebrated for combining style with comfort, a brand that had quietly conquered international markets and now brought her to the center of Britain's attention. Lisa's heels clicked against the polished floor, echoing faintly in the cavernous hall. She felt the weight of the crowd's attention, but the unease in her stomach was not solely from the eyes upon her. Earlier, a misstep had almost betrayed her composure, a snapped heel that left a small gap in her otherwise impeccable shoe. It was a minor mishap, but here, in the presence of royalty, minor could feel catastrophic. Lisa adjusted her posture, letting her breath steady, forcing herself into a polite smile as she moved toward the seating area. Her mind replayed the brief encounter with King Charles, who had knelt with surprising grace to replace her shoe, an act meant to ease embarrassment, but which had inadvertently set the stage for something far larger. From a distance, Queen Camila observed the exchange with a measured expression. The queen had always perfected the art of control, her gestures fluid, her voice calm, her presence a pillar of unshakable poise. But beneath that exterior, a storm was quietly building. The king's attention, even when entirely ceremonial, was like a spark in dry autumn leaves. Camilla's eyes, sharp and calculating, followed each movement, each flicker of Charles's gaze toward Lisa. The subtle acknowledgement, the warmth in his tone, the easy confidence with which he had handled a minor mishap. It was all fuel to a fire simmering in silence. As the ceremony progressed, Lisa ascended to receive her award, a small cluster of applause following her, recognizing the hard work she had poured into Soul Bliss. Charles's commendation, delivered with his usual balance of authority and charm, should have been merely ceremonial, but the king had lingered a fraction longer, asked about her journey, engaged her with curiosity that felt genuine. Lisa's heart swelled with gratitude, her nerves tempered by the rare sincerity she detected in his words. She had not expected kindness to feel so personal, so tangible. In that moment, she was neither entrepreneur nor awardee. She was simply a person, acknowledged, seen, and respected. Yet even as relief and pride coursed through her, an undercurrent of dread began to take shape. Camilla's presence a few steps away had shifted. The polite smile had vanished, replaced by a cold, unyielding stare. Her fingers clutched the rim of her teacup as if it were a lifeline, her knuckles whitening with restrained anger. The queen's mind raced, replaying the gestures, the words, the exchange of glances. It was a calculated recognition of threat, an intangible, simmering danger that could erupt at any moment. Outside, the gardens were bathed in golden light, their carefully curated beauty a stark contrast to the tension brewing inside. Guests drifted toward tea tables, their chatter a low murmur against the silence that clung to the royal staircase. Lisa stepped cautiously along the gravel paths, the crisp sound of her new shoes grounding her, but the echo of Camilla's glare seemed to follow with every step. Charles, walking beside her, offered small reassurances, light jokes to ease the lingering tension. But it was a delicate balance, a dance where every gesture mattered, where admiration and jealousy collided silently yet unmistakably. And then, without warning, the fragile calm shattered. Camilla, her restraint finally cracking, moved with a sudden, explosive determination that left the room gasping. The air thickened, eyes widened, and in a heartbeat, centuries of decorum teetered on the edge of chaos. The scene that had begun as a celebration of innovation and elegance was about to erupt into a royal spectacle no one could have predicted. The calm hall now held its breath, waiting for the storm to descend. Camilla's sudden movement cut through the hall like a lightning strike, make every guest frozen mid-step, eyes darting between the queen and the unfolding drama. Her face, flushed with a mixture of fury and disbelief, bore a mask of power laced with desperation. She didn't pause, didn't hesitate. Her hands shot forward, shoving Charles with a force that surprised even him. The king stumbled backward, his polished shoes skidding slightly on the marble floor, and Lisa, caught off guard, tumbled with him. Gasps erupted, the clatter of their fall reverberating through the ornate hall. Cameras flashed instinctively, capturing every shocking second for a world eager for royal spectacle. Pain shot through Lisa's ankle as it twisted beneath her, her breath hitching with sharp, startled cries. The heel that had been her pride moments ago now mocked her with its betrayal. Charles, steadying himself, reached instinctively to protect her, the royal composure battling with genuine concern. Lisa could barely process the collision of chaos and care. The brush of a king's hand as he steadied her contrasted violently with the wrath that had caused it. She bit her lip, trying to stifle the pain, her heart racing not just from the fall, but from the surreal intensity of the moment. Camilla, panting and wild-eyed, didn't step back. Her anger had consumed her usual restraint. She jabbed accusations at Charles, her voice sharp and resonant across the hall. Every word dripped with jealousy, a fierce, personal vendetta masquerading as royal indignation. The crowd murmured uneasily, whispers threading through the air like live wires. Some reached for their phones, instinctively recording, knowing they were witnessing an unprecedented royal meltdown. Charles, voice firm yet laced with concern, tried to reason, his hand guiding Lisa to remain seated. "Camilla, enough," he said, each syllable weighted with authority. "Miss K is injured, we need calm." But Camilla's storm had no ear for reason. She shoved again, a physical punctuation to her verbal tirade, forcing Charles to make a split-second decision. In a move that combined instinct and care, he positioned himself protectively in front of Lisa, shielding her while maintaining a measured distance from the queen. The elegance of the palace contrasted sharply with the raw intensity of the confrontation, a visual contradiction that left onlookers stunned. Lisa, her face pale and her ankle throbbing, tried to speak, to explain, to diffuse the tension, but Camilla's accusations sliced through her words. Each sentence painted her as a deliberate intruder, a calculated interloper who had somehow seduced the king with nothing but shoes and charm. Lisa's heart sank. The absurdity of it clashed violently with the physical pain radiating from her ankle. She wanted to flee, to retreat from the sudden epicenter of royal fury, yet her crutches and the fall pinned her in place, forcing her into the center of Camilla's ire. Security moved in, a silent, formidable presence in black suits, their eyes alert, muscles coiled for immediate action. Charles, though still reeling from the shock, raised a hand, signaling them to hold their positions. He didn't want restraint to escalate the situation further. This confrontation was a delicate equation of power, perception, and control. Every eye in the hall followed the unfolding narrative. The queen's uncontrolled jealousy, the king's protective composure, and the unsuspecting entrepreneur trapped between them. Minutes stretched, thick with tension, until finally, Camilla's fury hit a crescendo. The queen's chest heaved, her hands trembling as she stepped back, realization creeping through the haze of her wrath. The damage was done, not just to decorum, but to the fragile threads of trust and control she had long relied upon. Charles, steadying Lisa, offered a brief glance at Camilla, a silent acknowledgement that the confrontation had consequences far beyond the moment. Guests murmured, some moving closer, some retreating in shock, the hall a mixture of awe and apprehension. Lisa, still on the steps, felt the sting of embarrassment and physical pain merge, her mind racing through a torrent of fear and gratitude. Charles's hand remained steady on her shoulder, a silent promise of protection and acknowledgement. The queen's storm, though abating slightly, left a residue of unease in the air, a tension that promised the battle wasn't over. Outside the grand hall, whispers spread like wildfire. An accident, a royal outburst, a king caught between duty and emotion, and a queen consumed by jealousy. The palace's gilded walls Charles had never seen anything quite like it. Through the echoing hall, the fragile silence that followed the chaos was only temporary. The stakes had shifted. Royal dignity, personal pride, and public perception now intertwined with raw human emotion. And in the quiet after the storm, one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same for Windsor Castle, for Charles, for Camilla, or for Lisa Kay. The air itself seemed to hum with the promise of consequences yet to unfold. The night outside Windsor Castle had fallen into a hushed, expectant darkness, but inside, the echoes of earlier chaos lingered like a storm cloud refusing to disperse. Lisa sat in the quiet of her apartment, her ankle wrapped tightly, her crutches leaning nearby. The physical pain was sharp, but the mental weight pressed heavier. Every time she blinked, she saw Camilla's fiery glare, felt the push, the sudden tumble, the cold swipe of fear that followed with the masked men on the street. Her brand, her life, her very sense of safety had collided with the volatile intersection of royalty and jealousy. Yet, amidst the fear, a strange clarity emerged. Charles had stood by her, his authority, concern, and unshakable resolve a shield that few could rival. A soft knock at the door broke her thoughts. Heart hammering, Lisa hesitated, the memory of the attack flooding back. "Who is it?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It's William," came the calm, measured reply, followed by the unmistakable presence of King Charles himself. They entered quietly, carrying small tokens of normalcy, a basket with tea, biscuits, and a soft reassurance of safety. Lisa's eyes welled with tears, relief and lingering shock blending into an emotional cocktail she hadn't anticipated. Charles knelt slightly, careful of her injured ankle, his voice gentle but steady. "You've been through too much. This was never your fault, I swear. You will be protected from now on." The gravity of his words struck her. In that moment, Lisa realized the extent of the danger she had brushed against, and yet, the sincerity in Charles's eyes was undeniable. It wasn't mere protocol or ceremonial kindness, it was a promise anchored in genuine concern. William stood by, calm and unwavering, the image of steadfast support beside the king's authority. "Your safety is paramount," he added. "We'll make sure no one comes near you again." The presence of both men, the weight of royal power, aligned with personal care, allowed Lisa to exhale for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Meanwhile, within Buckingham Palace, Camilla lingered in the shadows of her own isolation. The cold truth of the previous day had begun to settle, and the reality of her actions hit with relentless precision. She had crossed boundaries that could not be ignored. The king's patience, the loyalty of the crown, and now the public scrutiny pressed down on her. The realization that power without restraint was hollow, yet pride and rage intertwined stubbornly with fear, leaving her poised on the edge of regret and defiance. Back at Lisa's apartment, the conversation shifted to practicalities. Charles and William discussed the measures necessary to ensure her continued safety, from personal security to immediate medical attention and even discreet monitoring of her surroundings. Lisa absorbed each word, the earlier terror now tempered by a growing sense of agency. She wasn't just a passive recipient of protection. She had a voice, a presence, and an undeniable resilience that Charles recognized and respected. "Your strength has not gone unnoticed," Charles said, his tone measured but warm. "It's rare to see someone face such fear with such composure." Lisa's lips curved into a weak, grateful smile, acknowledging the extraordinary recognition she had never expected from royalty. The conversation lingered, shifting between reassurance and quiet reflection. For Charles, the ordeal was a reckoning, a reminder that authority alone was insufficient, that personal relationships within the monarchy were as delicate and volatile as the public they served. William, ever observant, noted the subtle shifts in both father and mother, the lingering impact of jealousy, and the unspoken consequences of unchecked emotion. The palace hierarchy, the very image of stability, had been momentarily fractured, revealing human frailty beneath the polished veneer. As the night deepened, Lisa felt the first real sense of calm. The storm had passed, but the echoes remained, a warning of the fragility of trust, the unpredictable force of human emotion, and the weight of power wielded recklessly. Charles and William departed with quiet assurance, leaving her not just physically protected, but emotionally bolstered. In the silence that followed, Lisa understood that this night, terrifying as it had been, had also brought an unexpected revelation. Courage, sincerity, and integrity could stand firm even when the world seemed poised to collapse. Outside, the streets of London were calm under the dim glow of lamplights, but within Windsor Castle, the quiet was only temporary. A reckoning awaited, a reshaping of relationships, loyalties, and the subtle balance of power that defined life behind palace walls. And Lisa Kay, once a simple entrepreneur, now carried with her a story of survival, courage, and unexpected connection with royalty that would echo far beyond the walls of her apartment, her ankle, or even her brain.